Hi, my name's Ryan. I'm 31, I work in logistics, and until about 3 months ago, I thought I was about to marry the woman of my dreams. Her name was Olivia. We met at a friend's barbecue 5 years ago. She was witty, loud in a charming way, always surrounded by people who seemed to orbit her. I was quieter, more laid back, but she pulled me in instantly. We started dating, moved in together a year later, and for the most part, our relationship felt solid, real, like it had weight. We fought, sure. What couple doesn't? But I always thought we handled it like adults, communicated, repaired. We even went to couples counseling once just to make sure we were on the same page before I started looking at rings. I proposed on a weekend trip to Asheville. Nothing over the top, just us on a cabin balcony, early morning coffee, mountains in the background. I pulled the ring from my jacket pocket, asked her to marry me, and for a second she didn't say anything. Then she smiled, nodded, said yes. I cried. I'm not even ashamed of it. I was just relieved, happy, like all the years we'd built together were worth it. We got back home on a Sunday evening. Olivia was exhausted and flopped onto the couch. I started unpacking. The vibe was good, light. She was humming in the background, scrolling through her laptop. Eventually, she fell asleep on the couch. Her laptop was still open. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. I went to plug in her charger like I'd done 100 times before, and when I touched the trackpad, the screen woke up. It was a message thread, Facebook Messenger, I think, open, mid-conversation. The name at the top said Marcus. I shouldn't have looked, I know that, but something in me clicked. Instinct, maybe fear. The last message she sent was, "He finally proposed, LOL. I thought he'd chicken out." I froze. I scrolled up. Marcus. "So, when do we get our weekend again?" Olivia. "Soon. He's going to be so wrapped up in planning stuff I can sneak away easy." Marcus. "You're seriously going to marry him?" Olivia. "Of course. He's stable. He's safe. You're fun." Marcus. "You're messed up. I love it." Olivia. "You're going to miss the sex. I just stared at the screen. I couldn't even feel my body. My mind refused to believe what I was reading. I scrolled more. This wasn't new. The messages went back months, dozens of them, photos, jokes, inside references I didn't recognize. There were plans, there was intimacy, there was her with someone else, while she lived in my house and let me think we were building a future together. She stirred on the couch. I panicked, closed the laptop, and walked straight to the bathroom. Locked the door, sat on the edge of the tub shaking. I wanted to storm out, yell, wake her up, and throw the laptop at her feet. But I didn't. Not yet. I needed to see everything. The next morning, she woke up smiling, kissed me on the cheek, said she couldn't wait to tell her friends. I nodded, pretended, went to work like normal. But inside, something in me had cracked. That night, when she was in the shower, I opened the laptop again. Same thread, same betrayal. But then I saw another name, another thread. Not Marcus, someone named Dylan. And suddenly I realized Marcus wasn't the only one. This wasn't a slip-up. This wasn't a bad choice. This was a pattern, and I wasn't the fiancé. I was the fallback plan. And I had no idea how far down this rabbit hole went. The next few days were hell. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Every time Olivia smiled at me, it felt like a joke I didn't understand. Every time she reached for my hand, I flinched. I was living in the same house, eating the same meals, but I was somewhere else, entirely. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed to know the full story, if there even was one. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her laptop again. Look, I know how that sounds. I get it. But when you find out the person you love is living a double life, your moral compass spins out. You stop thinking in right or wrong. You think in survival. The thread with Dylan wasn't long, but it was recent, just a couple weeks before our trip. Dylan. Miss your mouth, Olivia. You'll get a taste soon. Don't get needy. Dylan. When are you free again? Olivia. Can't. He's got ring brain now. I kept reading. There were voice memos, flirty photos, a selfie of her in our bed captioned, "Thinking of you." I felt physically ill. 2 guys that I knew of, both clearly involved while she was saying yes to me. Was I a joke to her? A stepping stone? A placeholder? I didn't know what to do. My first instinct was to blow everything up, screenshot everything, text her family, post it all online, let the world know who Olivia really was. But something in me said, wait, just a little longer. I needed to be smarter than my anger, so I kept playing the role, the doting fiancé. I helped her look at venues, I listened to her talk about guest lists. All the while, I was documenting everything. I even started asking her casual questions. Hey, remember Marcus from that one barbecue? Haven't heard about him in a while. She didn't blink. Oh yeah, he moved out west. Haven't talked in forever. Lieutenant, what about your friend Dylan from college, right? Dylan, she laughed. Haven't heard that name in years. Another lie. It was surreal, like watching a show where I already knew the ending, but the characters hadn't caught up. And then, just when I thought I had a grip on things, she gave me her phone, completely unprompted. I want to sync our calendars, she said. We should start wedding planning for real. I smiled. Great idea. She handed it over unlocked. I don't know if it was arrogance or carelessness, but she didn't clear anything. Messages, photos, notes, all there. And what I found made everything worse. There were more names: Tyler, Nate, Chris. I couldn't keep count. Some were flings, one-time hookups. Others were deeper. One guy had called her his person. Another had sent a photo of a necklace he said reminded him of her. This wasn't cheating. It was a lifestyle, a strategy. She wasn't unfaithful in a moment of weakness. She collected men, kept them on rotation, categorized them like apps. Each one served a purpose. Marcus was her thrill. Dylan was convenience. I was stability. I realized then I was the retirement plan, the guy you marry when you're done messing around. But I wasn't going to let that be my story. I made copies of everything, backed up the messages, took screenshots. I even downloaded the entire chat history from her cloud. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her in anger. I was going to let her write her own ending. So I planned a dinner. Just us. Fancy restaurant, the kind we hadn't been to in a long time. She wore a red dress, said I looked handsome, kissed me across the table like nothing was wrong. After dessert, I handed her a box. She opened it, expecting another gift. Inside were printed pages, the messages, the photos, a list of names. She went pale. I said nothing. She stared at me for a long time, then whispered, "You went through my stuff?" I laughed. "That's what you're starting with," I said. "Not the lies, not the other guys, just how I found out." She closed the box. "I can explain." I shook my head. "Number, you really can't." She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "You don't get to touch me anymore." She started to cry, real tears, or maybe performance. At that point, I couldn't tell the difference. I stood up, left cash on the table, and I walked out. She didn't follow, but the story wasn't over, because the next morning her mother called me. And what she said changed everything. I didn't pick up the call at first. Olivia's mom had always been polite, warm even, but we were never especially close. So when her name flashed across my screen at 8:15 a.m., the morning after I walked out, I figured Olivia had already spun her version of the story, but then came the voicemail. "Ryan, sweetheart, I think we need to talk. Please call me back. This isn't what you think." That last sentence stopped me cold. This isn't what you think. I waited a few hours before calling back. Not out of spite, just I didn't trust myself not to say something cruel. When I finally dialed, she answered immediately. "Ryan, thank you for calling. Listen, I don't want to take sides, okay? But I think Olivia is spiraling and I'm worried." "Spiraling?" I asked. "You mean cheating on me with half the internet?" She exhaled slowly. "No, I mean, Ryan. This isn't the first time she's done this." I sat down. "What do you mean?" There was a pause, then she's struggled for a long time, since she was a teenager. Emotional dysregulation, identity stuff, attachment problems. Her father, she stopped herself. Point is, she seeks out people who fill gaps. She doesn't even know she's doing it sometimes. It's like a compulsion. I didn't speak. Couldn't. "She doesn't mean to hurt people," her mom continued, "but she does, repeatedly. And then she feels guilty, so she throws herself into the most stable thing she has, which was you." I could hear the weight in her voice. Not defensive, not excusing, just exhausted. "I'm not saying you should take her back," she said. "I'm just saying, if she lashes out, it's not about you." That phrase hit me hard. I thanked her, told her I appreciated the honesty, and we hung up. The rest of that day felt like static. I replayed everything Olivia's mom said, tried to square it with the woman I thought I knew. The woman I wanted to marry. It didn't justify anything, but it did change the texture of my anger. It wasn't fire anymore, it was ash. Then came the emails. Olivia sent 3 in one day. Email 1, subject, "I messed up. I know you hate me. I hate me too. I was scared. I was bored. I was stupid. I thought I could have both security and passion, but I never wanted to lose you. Please talk to me." Email 2, subject, "Don't shut me out. I'm going to therapy. Real therapy, not just once a month like before. I want to change. I need to. You were the only thing that felt real." Email 3, subject, "I'm not okay. If you don't respond, I understand. But please, let me explain in person, just once. Then you never have to see me again." I didn't know what to do. My friends said delete, block, move on. But something in me, it wasn't love, not anymore, but unfinishedness, made me say yes. We met at a park, neutral ground. She looked thinner, pale, like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands trembled when she handed me a letter, a real, handwritten letter. I didn't read it right away. I just asked, "How many?" She looked up. "I don't know." I nodded. She said she was sorry, that she didn't know how to be loved without sabotaging it, that the proposal scared her, not because she didn't want it, but because it meant she'd have to be honest and she didn't know how. "I never deserved you," she said. And weirdly, I agreed. We sat in silence after that. Then I stood up, handed the letter back to her, and said, "Maybe someday you'll be someone who deserves what you had." Then I walked away. But closure's never clean, because a week later I got a call from HR. Someone had accessed my company email from our home IP address while I was at work. Turns out Olivia hadn't just lied, she'd gone deeper, and I was about to find out just how far she was willing to go. The email breach wasn't obvious at first. I got a message from my company's IT department. Routine alert, unusual login activity. They flagged my account because someone had accessed it from an IP address associated with my home network at 2:14 p.m. on a Thursday. I was in the office that day. I hadn't used my home computer in nearly a week. At first I thought it was a false alarm. Maybe something auto-synced, but IT took it seriously. They asked if I'd recently shared my credentials. I hadn't. They ran a log trace. Someone had logged into my company email and forwarded 3 threads to an unknown Gmail account. One of those threads contained sensitive client files. I felt sick. They asked me to sit tight while they launched an internal investigation. I knew they were covering themselves, but I couldn't help but panic. I'd worked there for 6 years. Never had an issue. Now suddenly, I was flagged for a potential security breach. My first thought was Olivia. She still had the Wi-Fi password, still had access to the apartment. She even still had a spare key. I went home that night and tore the place apart, and that's when I found it. Her old laptop, hidden under the bed, wrapped in a blanket. Not her current one, the one I discovered the messages on, but a different one. I didn't even know she still had it. I booted it up. No password. Inside was a mess of documents. Drafted emails, screenshots, notes. There were folders with names I didn't recognize. Probably the other guys. One folder, though, was titled Plan B. Inside, a full draft of a breakup email from me to my boss. A fake resignation letter, another email to HR accusing my direct manager of harassment, fake screenshots of messages that didn't exist, and one draft stood out, a fake email thread where I supposedly confessed to leaking internal company documents, all written in my tone, my style, even signed with my signature block. I backed away from the screen. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had a backup plan to ruin my life. I copied everything, every file, every timestamp. Then I called my lawyer. He was quiet while I explained. Then he asked a single question. "Do you want to pursue criminal charges?" I didn't answer right away. I was tired, bone-deep tired. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want headlines. I just wanted peace. But I also couldn't let this slide. We turned the files over to IT and legal at my company. They cleared me officially within 48 hours. I got a written statement from corporate exonerating me of any involvement. HR suggested changing my home network, replacing my locks, and filing a police report. So I did. I filed a formal complaint, gave them everything: documents, access logs, the laptop. The officer who took my statement didn't flinch. "You're not the first," he said. "People think digital manipulation is harmless, but this is deliberate sabotage." They classified it as identity fraud and attempted corporate interference. I haven't heard from Olivia since. Her number's blocked. Her email goes to spam. Mutual friends say she moved in with someone else. No one knows his name. I finally changed the locks, donated the rest of her things. The apartment feels emptier, but also lighter. I go to therapy twice a week now, not because I'm broken, but because I want to understand why I didn't see it sooner, why I ignored the signs, why someone like me, a decent, boring, loyal guy, was the perfect mark. And I've come to one conclusion. She never loved me. Not really. She loved the version of herself she could be next to me. The stability, the normalcy, the optics, but not me. And when that fantasy cracked, she needed an escape route. I was the launch pad, and she nearly took me down with her, but she didn't. I'm still here. And what she doesn't know is I kept one last card, because buried deep in that laptop and was a name I did recognize, one of the other guys, someone I knew. And he had no idea what she was dragging him into next. His name was Jared. We used to work together, not best friends, but we shared the same office floor, talked sports, exchanged playlists, even grabbed drinks a few times after work. We lost touch a year ago when he transferred to a different city. So when I saw his name in one of Olivia's folders, I thought it had to be a coincidence, but it wasn't. The folder was labeled Jared_M. Inside were screenshots of Instagram DMs, texts, and what looked like travel itineraries, hotel confirmations, a photo of her in the mirror, one I recognized from months ago, captioned, "Room 403 waiting." I felt my stomach turn. This wasn't just casual flirting. This was logistics. She flew to see him twice. Both times she told me it was a girls' trip. I remembered both weekends. The first time I sent her money for the hotel. The second, I picked her up from the airport. She kissed me in the parking garage like nothing had happened. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. It got worse. In one message, Jared asked, "Are you still with that guy?" Her reply, "Engage now. Don't worry, he's harmless." Harmless. That word echoed in my skull. I didn't even think. I texted him. Just a simple message. "Hey, need to talk. It's about Olivia." He replied in under 5 minutes. We agreed to meet at a bar halfway between our places. It was awkward at first. He looked genuinely happy to see me, until I showed him the photos. His face dropped. "What the hell is this?" "You didn't know?" I asked. He shook his head, jaw clenched. "She told me you two had broken up. That you were toxic, controlling. That she was staying with a friend until she found her own place." I almost laughed. "That's rich. She was still living with me, sleeping in my bed." He exhaled, leaned back, rubbed his face. "I'm such an idiot." "No," I said. We both are." We traded timelines, compared notes, discovered that we overlapped at least 4 months. She told him she was moving for a job, told me she was going to therapy. We were just 2 pieces on her game board. And now that I knew who Jared really was, I realized something else. He wasn't just a guy. He was a stepping stone. He had a startup. He'd just gotten funding. His Instagram was filled with business conferences, private lounges, early investor dinners. She wasn't just cheating. She was climbing. And Jared? He was the next rung. I asked him what he planned to do. He didn't answer, just stared into his drink like it had betrayed him too. Before we parted ways, he said, "Thanks for telling me." I said, "You deserve to know." I thought that was the end of it. But 2 days later, Olivia showed up at my door, unannounced, makeup smudged, eyes red, hoodie pulled tight. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't want to let her in, but I did. She sat on the edge of the couch, didn't look at me. "You talked to Jared," she said. "Yep," she nodded. "I figured." Silence. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. "I need help." I folded my arms. Too late. She looked up. I know, but not from you, just help, in general. I'm checking into a facility. I already spoke to my mom. I didn't want you to hear it from someone else. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream or maybe hug her or maybe throw her out. Instead, I said, I hope it's real this time. She nodded, then left. No drama, no apologies, just gone. And maybe that's what closure looks like sometimes. Not fireworks, not vengeance. Just silence. But there was still one last thread to pull, because 2 weeks later I got a message, anonymous number, no name. It just said, you think you know everything, but you don't. Check Olivia's drive, look under Golden. I almost ignored it, almost. But curiosity is a hell of a drug, and what I found under that folder wasn't about me. It was about someone else entirely. And it proved that Olivia wasn't just manipulative, she was dangerous. The folder was buried deep. It wasn't in her main Google Drive. It was in a hidden subfolder nested 5 layers in, labeled Golden in all caps. The kind of name that looks harmless if you're skimming, like old college notes or some half-baked side project. But this wasn't that. Inside were documents, audio files, screenshots, PDFs. Most of them dated over the past 3 years, names I didn't recognize, faces, personal information. Spreadsheets titled things like Access, Backup, Exit Plan. It read like a playbook, or worse, a manual. There were profiles on men, Jared, Marcus, Dylan, and a dozen more. Each had their own folder, notes about personality types, emotional tendencies, career goals, even relationship histories. I opened mine. Ryan, stability. Under it, wants family, financially consistent, emotionally available, blind spot, loyalty, slow to anger, easy to guilt. I felt like I'd been dissected, like she'd taken me apart piece by piece and filed me under a category. Another document listed my salary, my 401k balance, and copies of text threads between me and my mom. Things I didn't even remember sharing. It got darker. One audio file, clearly recorded without my knowledge, was of us arguing last year about money. I remembered the fight. It wasn't major, but hearing it played back made my skin crawl. The tone in her voice wasn't distressed. It was clinical. Like she was documenting, gathering material. What was this? A hobby? A project? Insurance! I backed up everything to a hard drive and shut the laptop. Then I called my lawyer again. He was silent for a long time after I told him. Then said, "This is bigger than manipulation. This is calculated, methodical. She's done this before, Ryan. She'll do it again." He recommended I turn the drive over to authorities, not just for my sake, but in case one of the other men ever needed proof. So I did. The detective who took my statement didn't look surprised, said it reminded him of a case where someone ran a multi-victim emotional scam for years, manipulating men for housing, money, and legal protection. They opened a file. I don't know what will come of it. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. What matters is this. I'm done. Done asking questions that don't have answers. Done wondering what was real and what was strategy. Done mourning a version of a relationship that never actually existed. Because what Olivia gave me wasn't love. It was a performance, a curated role designed to extract as much as possible before the exit. But I'm not broken. Not anymore. I've rebuilt. New apartment, new locks, new laptop. I kept the ring not as a memory, but as a reminder that I can be fooled, yes, but I can also survive. It's been 4 months since she last reached out. I don't expect I'll hear from her again. If I do, I won't respond. I still go to therapy. I still struggle with trust. But I'm learning how to spot real connection from convenience. Learning how to set boundaries that don't bend just because someone cries. Learning how to love myself enough not to beg for the bare minimum. And most of all, learning that it's okay to walk away from someone you thought was your forever. Even if you already bought the ring. Because closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a folder, a door you close and never open again.